Gonna get some good ASMR of me putting lotion on.
Oh, great. I'll remember
Today
not
I'm
to
going
use
to
it.
be using the unscented Euceterm. I bought it because I have really dry skin.
Wow. So you figured out your number 10?
I figured out a number 10 that I can justify to myself.
So the funny part is, between me telling you I'd found my number 10 and us answering the phone call here, I found a new number 10. So I
It
think,
was more difficult than I was expecting to order them.
yeah, because there are just so many songs, like just in general. So there's so much music I listen to. And then it's like, well, what is actually my favorite? Because picking out my favorite of anything isn't easy. And then once I find it, I usually just stick to it. But this was not that easy. It's been like 3 days of going through this list.
Yeah, I had a head start, so mine didn't take quite as long as you.
Yeah, because when you were back here for Dad's wedding, at some point it came up of coming up with your top 25 songs. Do you remember why that was a talking point?
Uh, Nope. Oh, yes. Emily was showing us songs, and she was like, I think this is probably in my top 25 favorite songs of all time. And I was like, she went to the next one. It's like, oh, this is probably in my top 10. I was like, oh, well, what's my top 50 or top 25?
Yeah. And then you came up with your top 25 pretty quickly, kind of in no particular order, and you read them off. And if your list is anything similar to that list, I don't think we're going to have any overlap on our top 10s.
There will be zero overlap. I will be surprised if you have even heard of half of these songs.
And same to you. But
Great.
that's the thing with how many songs there are. So like when I suggested we talk about movies and you said I don't think I could have named 10 movies in your top 10. There are only, like, in the US, I think they're average 800 movies a year. And like they're probably 800 songs uploaded to iTunes since we started this phone call.
Yep. I had a hard time doing this too because, like, all time favorite song is different than my favorite songs right now.
Yeah.
So I can go through and I can look at my most recently played songs on Spotify, but they're not like my favorite overall songs.
Yeah. This list is definitely going to be sort of a picture of who I am as a person right now. Because I don't know that a lot of the music that I listen to has carried through as my favorite, like listen to growing up, which I was finding which I was finding as I was putting this list together. And then there are, like you said, songs I listen to right now that I like them a lot right now, but I wouldn't put them on my favorite, like, overall list.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard. It's definitely sort of a subjective criteria to the picking the top 10 songs, because I would say
No kidding.
also my top 10 favorite songs, I wouldn't expect these to be the top 10 best songs ever made.
No. No, I don't think I would call any of my songs even in the top 100 of best songs ever made.
And it doesn't help that music has been made like since the beginning of human history. So how would anyone even put together criteria for all the different styles of music that there have been over the thousands of years of music?
I was talking to Emily sometime within the past 4 years, and she was trying to name like the all time five best bands, and she tried to convince me that Coldplay was one of the best bands of all time.
I would say no.
It's like I have met literally zero people who actively listen to Coldplay.
I know one of my staff from when I was in Georgia.
According to Emily. They're one of the best bands of all time.
They didn't even, when they played the Super Bowl, they didn't even like play their own halftime show. They brought Beyonce and Bruno Mars back.
Mm-hmm. But they've just been around for so long.
Well,
They're good.
So have a lot of people. So I asked you how we should do this, if we should go back and forth 10 to 1, or if we should do one person 10 to 1 and then the other person 10 to 1. And you said, and I think I agree, that we should go back and forth 10 to 1. Because I think when someone listens to a top 10 list, they don't want to go from 10 to 1 and then restart 10 to 1. I think once you get to 1, people are done listening.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I don't know whether you want to go first or I should go first.
You can go first.
All right. So, when I told you that I had come up with my number 10 just 10 minutes before I texted you, that was Smooth Criminal by Michael Jackson. And I still think it's a good song. It's the only song I will say that I've ever actively wanted to dance to, but I wanted to be able to dance like Michael Jackson to it. So I'm not going to dance to it. But I started thinking about like a lot of the accusations about Michael Jackson and sort of some of his actions as a person. And this had some questions about how do we interact with people who have had, like, how do we interact with creative people, or any people, I guess, who have had accusations similar to his or to other people. And I started thinking about maybe this isn't a conversation I need to get into right now, and also maybe this isn't actually just because I wanted to dance to this song doesn't mean it's maybe in my top 10. So instead, I chose a song that you probably have never heard of, and it is a song called Jesus, He Knows Me by Genesis.
Never heard of it.
Have you ever heard of the band Genesis?
Nope.
Have you ever heard of a person named Phil Collins?
Yes, I know who Phil Collins is.
So Phil Collins was the lead singer and the drummer for Genesis. Jesus, He Knows Me is a song. It came out in 1991. The only reason I know that is because I was just watching the music video and it said Jesus, He Knows Me, 1991.
Solid.
And the song is about, he wrote it, he said, like staying in hotels in the United States and seeing like prosperity gospel type preachers on TV, like televangelist people, and just some of the things that they were saying versus like what they were doing. And so it's really a song sort of, I don't want to say it's against these people, but it would be like I don't know, almost like an accountability check. It's very what's the word? It would be like a satirical type song. So I don't know how to, this might be, I don't want to go through every song and like play each song for the other person. So that might be one to just listen to later, or I guess all of them will be. And I don't know whether
I'll like, do we have a YouTube channel?
Yeah, but I don't want to put stuff in and then get
we could just like
hits.
Put them into a playlist on the YouTube channel.
Yeah.
So if anyone wants to listen to our songs, well,
yeah,
not our songs.
And I'll be putting links in the show notes. But like, I don't want to play the actual songs and get copyright hits.
Good start to a podcast.
Yeah, I don't know how that works in the podcast world, because I listened to another podcast where they have put clips of songs in their thing, and I don't know how that would be policed. So I guess just do your best in explaining.
Understand it.
Yeah, just do your best in explaining the song. I took more time trying to think of which songs were in my top 10 than how I was going to explain what they are.
Yes. So, my number 10 song. I don't know if you know this song specifically, but you know the band. It's Words I Couldn't Say by Rascal Flatts.
I don't know it off the top of my head, but I could figure it out.
It's basically, the singer is singing about, like, a relationship that didn't work out, and then how he like didn't say all of the things that he wanted to say in that relationship, and now he's not in the relationship anymore, and he's just left with all these words that like he wish he would have said but he didn't. So I had a hard time coming up with my number 10, and then I decided that it was going to be a Rascal Flatts song because Rascal Flatts was really important to me throughout
Your entire
most of
childhood?
elementary school. I've seen them in concert a couple times. And even though I'm not like into country music anymore, I still really like them. Or more so their older things. But I really liked this particular song because the message that I got from it was like, if you're in a relationship, like romantic or like a friendship, like, don't hold back, or else something might happen and you're gonna regret all of the things that you didn't do. It's like, if you care about someone, tell them that you care about them. Otherwise, sometime down the road, you might not have that chance anymore. You're gonna regret it.
Yeah. Yeah, just looking at the lyrics for that song, I don't recognize it. I would have to hear it, I think.
Yeah, it's definitely not one of their more popular songs, but I think it's one of the more meaningful ones.
Yeah.
But it's not like a radio hit because it's more of a slow song.
Yeah, I'll have at least one of those like that coming up on this list from another artist. And that was an interesting thing too, trying to think about how, like, what criteria I was going to choose for a song, because there are songs that I like the sound of, but I literally know none of the lyrics and I don't know what the lyrics are saying. And then there are songs where like the lyrics are fantastic, but the song itself is just okay, like sound wise. So trying to pull together a mix of lyrics versus sound of the song was an interesting thing I encountered going through this list.
Yeah, one of the biggest things that I noticed is that there was a lot of nostalgia sort of feeling with the songs that I was picking.
Yeah.
It's like Rascal Flatts. I don't really listen to them anymore. But I mean, they were very important to me in third grade. I saw them in concert twice.
Yeah. And that's kind of my number 9 is to lead into that. So I decided with this selection, I was going to put it either 9 or 10, but that there's a band that I liked starting in roughly ninth or 10th grade, all the way through college, all the way when I moved to Denver. And this is going to be for like that band and for sort of the entire genre that I was listening to in high school and college. The song is by P.O.D, and the song is Change the World. And I decided to choose it as sort of the same as you, a nostalgia pick, which like I still like P.O.D a lot, and if I were pressed, that might be one of my top bands ever that I like. And they have a very distinct like Southern California sound of like a mix of reggae, rock, rap, hip hop type music, kind of all mashed together. But Change the World was on. So they had an album come out in 2001 that was like their biggest commercial hit. And I think Change the World was on the album after that. I'm not going to look it up. Someone can fact check me on it. But I don't know. I like the sound of it. I like the song, the lyrics of it. And it's a song I like actually learned how to play on the drums by tabbing the song. So like I listened to the song over and over and over so that I could write down the notes on the drum set so that I could learn it on the drum set.
Yeah, my number 9 is kind of the same thing of just like the sound of it. So it's Never Sure by Mayday Parade. Mayday Parade is a pop punk band. I don't know if they're still like around, but the song, my reasoning for putting it at number 9 was I just really like the beat. It was on my Spotify like 100 most played songs of 2019 and probably 2018. But like the lyrics aren't that great. Like the song is about like a dude getting into a relationship, and like one of the lines in the chorus is I won't lie, I only love you for the heartbreak. So it's like, he knows that it's not going to work out. It's like, these are kind of some not great lyrics. But I just really like the beat. And it's one of the more recent songs that I found that I really like. Just for the sound of it.
Yeah. I didn't end up with any pop punk on this top 10 list, but there are a couple in my honorable mentions. I didn't listen to pop punk in high school because there were girls I knew who listened to pop punk and I didn't want to be like them or listen to the music they were listening to. Emily very much was into pop punk, like when she was in junior high. Like
Yeah, Bowling for Soup, Good Charlotte.
Yeah, like when I started listening to pop punk within the last like 5 years, I went back through some of that early 2000s pop punk and I was like, I know all these songs because Emily was listening to them.
Mm-hmm. I'm just a kid and life is a nightmare. That's a Good Charlotte one.
No, that's a Simple Plan.
Oh, Simple Plan. I think it's Bowling for Soup who does the Bruce Springsteen, Madonna. Yeah.
So, fun fact, there's a Mary-Kate and Ashley movie where, like, one of them is in a band and then the other one's, like, a super academic type person who's supposed to be giving a speech. Like, do you remember that movie? Have you seen that movie?
I don't think so.
Anyways, in this movie, Simple Plan is in the movie. And while I was watching the movie, I was like, that's not a real band. They just made up a band for this movie, and they called it Simple Plan. Shows what I knew. Definitely a real band.
Within the past 5 years, Emily went and saw them in concert.
Really? Interesting.
It was like a standing room only, and she just went there because it was like $20 or something.
Interesting. That's like the only Simple Plan song I know.
They do the Scooby-Doo theme song.
Maybe now they do. They didn't when I was watching Scooby-Doo.
What's new, Scooby-Doo? We're coming after you. That's them. Gonna solve that mystery.
I don't know that version.
How old are you?
I'm 28 years old. The Scooby-Doo I was watching was the old school Scooby-Doo. With freaking... What's his name? The radio guy playing Shaggy. Oh, man. What's his name? Either the top 25 before Ryan Seacrest. This is going to bother me until I think of his name. Casey Kasem. Casey Kasem was playing Shaggy originally.
So it's the 2002 show What's New, Scooby-Doo.
Oh,
had 3 seasons. That's what they sang the theme song for.
Do not know. Anywho, now that we've gone off on that sidetrack. On to number 8. So my number 8 is a song that is called On My Own by Tessa Violet. Do you know who Tessa Violet is?
Does she make YouTube videos?
Yes, she used to be known as Mika Kitty on YouTube.
Oh, yep.
And then she transitioned from YouTuber primarily to now she is a musician primarily. So she put out... like in 2012 or something, she put out her first album, like a full-length album. And then a couple years later, she put out it's probably not as early as 2012. Anyways, after that, she put out an EP, which had 5 songs on it. And On My Own is number 4 on that track list. And when I saw her in 2018 in Chicago, that's the only song from that EP that she didn't play. I was like, man, that's like the song I connected with the most. It's like the opening of the song, lyrics. I put my foot in my mouth again. I hope they still want to be my friends. I got desirable
Yes.
I got desirable qualities if you don't mind my obsessing with me. It's like
It
this
sounds
sounds
like
like
you.
me. And then I saw at that show, she was like, yeah, I have an album all ready to go and I'm going to be releasing it soon. And it took her like a year and a half to release it. And I was like, you just played all these songs at the show and I'm waiting for them to be released. And her new songs are good too, but this is the one of hers that, like I said, I connected with most on a personal level.
Yeah. When she went by Mika Kitty, she was in a Rhett and Link video.
Yeah,
the breakup song.
Yeah, she was in that. She was also in there was one they did, Beat the Heat. She was in that song, that video. Also, fun fact, she was in, have you heard of the band Family Force 5?
I have heard of them.
She was in a video of theirs called Cray Button when I was a senior in college. And she
Push
was
the
like,
cray button.
yeah, she's in the video for that song. And I'm watching the video for this song, and she's like pretty prominently featured. And I'm like, am I supposed to know who this person is? It seems like the way they're filming this, I'm supposed to know who she is. And it turns out I did know who she was, but I didn't realize I knew who she was until about 4 years later. Because she did a video on the Vlogbrothers channel, bringing them back into this, for for Hank's paternity leave, I think. And I think that's when I started watching her videos, and then went back. I was like, oh, I've seen stuff she's been in. How about that?
My number 8, I think, is going to take a whole lot of people by surprise, including you. It's the song Long Live by Taylor Swift. It's, I think, the last track on her Speak Now album, so it's like old school Taylor Swift. And the song is like I think Taylor Swift made it for like her band. So it's like Taylor Swift and her band like winning an award, or like winning Homecoming King and Queen, or like something stupid that's like not a big accomplishment in the grand scheme of life, but like it meant so much to them at that point. It's like a bunch of teens in ripped jeans, we're gonna rule the world. And I really liked that because I was a teen who wore ripped jeans and I thought I was gonna change the world with all of my friends. And there was one line in the song that was like when we, this is not the right like line, but it's the right general idea. So that like when we grow old, like we might grow apart, but there are gonna be pictures of us. And then like when your kids look at the pictures and ask like, who is that? Like, please tell them my name and let them know that we were important to each other. Just like even if you grow apart from your friends, like we still did a whole bunch of great things together. We meant a lot to each other at some point in time. Like we might not talk anymore, but we did some stuff.
Yep. T-Swizzle.
Yeah, I think another thing that I liked about the song is it was like Taylor Swift has the bad reputation of just like singing about all her past boyfriends.
Yeah.
And this was like one of the songs that was not about a boyfriend. It was just like a bonding with your friends type song. I love this.
Yeah. That might have been the album where it sort of switched for me, because when she first got into country music, that was back when we had our basic cable package with GAC, Great American Country, as one of the channels. So she like busted onto the scene while we had that. So I was into it for like 2 albums. And then on the third one, I was like, I don't think this is going my way anymore.
Yeah, that was when she started making the transition from country to pop.
Yeah. Very interesting. So that was number 8 for you?
Yes.
So around to 7. So number 7 for me, this is going to be our one and only foray into Christian worship music. It's a song called Brother by the Brilliance. So I have found myself in the last, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 years, like moving further and further away from listening to Christian music and listening to worship music in particular, just kind of on my own, because a lot of it feels very the same, and a lot of it feels like it's not covering a ton of like a broad spectrum of life issues, if that makes sense. And I was turned on to this band, The Brilliance, by someone I went to seminary with. Here, I'm pulling up the lyrics as I talk, so it might throw me off for a minute. The Brilliance. There. So I was wanting to listen to bands that sing about justice type issues. And she's like, I just went and saw The Brilliance, and they sing a lot about justice type issues. And so I started listening to them a while after that. And this song is definitely I should just be doing one thing at a time. The song is definitely one that focuses on justice, I would say, and definitely on like seeing people as people, or like interacting with other people who are different from us as human beings. So the song, the largest section of the lyrics is, "When I look into the face of my enemy, I see my brother." And I think that is a message that the church, especially the American white evangelical church, needs to be taking into effect as they're thinking about how to approach a lot of different issues in the country right now. So when I look into the face of my enemy, I see my brother.
Yeah, that's a good message that I think even outside the church, other people could adopt. I think it would make us a better society. We stop just demonizing everyone who's different than us.
Yeah, so that song, and then I also put a tag on here of, they had a song called "Turning Over Tables," which is like a super sort of upbeat type, coming together type song that I like as well. And I got to see the Brilliance last February, again in Chicago. I went with Emily, actually. I saw the Brilliance and Gunger and Propaganda, and is one of the best shows I've ever seen. And if you want to listen to some good bands, Gunger is no longer a band as Gunger. That was their farewell tour. They've had a philosophical, theological shift in their beliefs, and I think that led to them disbanding as that band.
Yeah, Emily tried to get me into Gunger several years ago. I'm not sure if it was her trying to get me into Gunger or just she was listening to it a lot and it felt like she was trying to get me into it.
Yeah. They're very good musicians. So Gunger is one Gunger brother. That's his last name. And then the Brilliance is another Gunger brother. So, like, they're siblings. Which is part of why I think they were on tour together.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Cool. Well,
all right, so
on to yours.
My number 7, I don't think many people will know this song. It's "Wish That You Were Here" by Florence and the Machine. And it's the song that plays in the end credits for the movie Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children. And the song, it's like super sad. It's about like a person, as most songs are. It's about a person who misses someone, and then they feel that when they're actually physically close to someone, they still feel really like distant emotionally. So I found this song my freshman year of college on a playlist of sad music, because I was sad for most of my freshman year of college. And one of the things that happened my freshman year of college is my best friend from Minnesota and we just like stopped talking. And then it would be like I would go home for breaks, and then it was just like the feeling of like I'm so much closer to her now, but I've never felt more distant from her than at this moment in time. It was just the feeling of like, wow, someone else understands this feeling. So I would just listen to it. Like I said, it's really, really sad. But I found comfort in it. Just the idea that my thoughts and feelings were recognized by someone else.
Yeah. That's I think when music is at its best, is when you're able to connect with it sort of across a spectrum of emotions.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. I've seen that movie too. I don't remember the end credits. Have I told you about reading the book Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children?
Yeah, and you like didn't realize that it was like a series?
Yeah, so I was reading it on my lunch break last year at work, and I'd seen the movie. So we're like approaching the end of the book, and it's just like, man, this book is going to end very quickly. And then it ended. I was like, oh, there are more books that I need to read. So they're actually on the shelf right above my head. The next 2. Are there just 3? Do you know?
I have no idea.
Well, I have books 2 and 3 from that series right above my head. But anywho.
Yeah, I never read the books. I think I saw the movie in theaters, and then Emily got it for me for my birthday one year. It was when I turned 18. She got it when she gave me 18 presents for my 18th birthday because it was my golden birthday.
Does that mean she's going to give me 31 presents 2 years from now?
I don't know. When it was her golden birthday when she turned 24, I got her 24 presents. But I didn't really have any money, so it was like I got a pack of 4 shot glasses. I was like, this counts as 4.
36, but last year I got 37.
Oh, some of them are quite a bit bigger than last year.
I don't care how big they are.
I'll tell you what, when we go to the zoo, we'll get you 2 more presents.
Oh, good old Harry Potter. All right, moving right along then. My number 6. Number 6 for me is a song called Valerie by Mark Ronson featuring Amy Winehouse. Have you heard this song?
Is that the Valerie? That one?
I'm going to say yes. I think you're thinking of the right thing. Just based off of that, I don't know for sure, but I think you're thinking of the right thing. So, this is not technically like an Amy Winehouse song, since it's like Mark Ronson's album and Amy Winehouse is singing on it. But he produced her second album, Back to Black. So they were like working together at the time. And it's a cover of an older song. I don't think I have ever heard the actual original version of the song. But Amy Winehouse was definitely a very talented singer. I mean, a very troubled soul. And so this doesn't necessarily line up with like the music that she made on her own or the things that she was writing, but it's a very well-made song, I think, and I think it features her vocally very well. Plus, it's like a really good place if you're trying to put together a party playlist. It's a really good place to start because you can branch off into a whole bunch of different directions.
Interesting.
Because she's like a jazz singer, and then her second album was very like pop jazz type, and then this song is like from the 50s or 60s, and so you can move into something more pop from today, or you can move into something more pop from 50 years ago, and it like kind of links together pretty well no matter what you're doing.
All right. This is number 6, right?
Yes.
My number 6, I know that you know this song. It's Thrive by Switchfoot.
I do know that song.
Yeah, we've talked about it as siblings before. Emily suggested it as a sibling tattoo. And the whole theme of the song is, what's his name? John? Is that the singer?
Yep.
John is talking about how he wants to thrive in life and he doesn't want to just survive. And, like, there's a difference between getting by and actually living the life that you want to live. So he's talking about his struggles that he has trying to thrive. And I think it's good. It's a song that if I'm in a certain mood, it'll always make me cry. Because I want to be thriving in life, and then sometimes it just like hits you like a ton of bricks. Just like, I'm not doing the best I can. And trying to get that motivation back to live your life the way you want to.
Yeah. It's a song.
But also, like, the idea of, like, if you are sad or in that rut, like, it's okay. It's not the end of the world.
Yeah. It's a song, or at least a lyric, that I've thought of a lot in the last 4 years, as I've basically just been surviving in life, just trying to, like my lengthy search for a job I want to do instead of a job that just keeps me alive. It's like one of these things is happening and one of these things is not. And it's not the one I want to be happening. Although I suppose survival is better than the alternative, as Grandpa would say.
That's a very Grandpa saying.
Yup. Switchfoot for a long time for me was like the gold standard of Christian rock. Christian rock was what I was listening to almost exclusively in junior high and high school. And then I kind of tapered away from them. I started listening to heavier bands like P.O.D. instead of Switchfoot. But that was
I was never super into them. I think I saw them in concert at least once. Oh, I definitely saw them in concert.
I've seen them. Gosh. I want to say I've seen them 3 times, but I can't remember what the third one would be. First time I saw them was
Northwestern
here.
once. Or at least once.
I saw them here in high school. I saw them in Denver with Emily. They were on tour with Reliant K. I saw they made a video or a movie. They made like a surfing documentary almost, and then made an album to go with that. So I saw them at Colorado Christian. So yeah, I've seen them at least 3 times.
That's when I saw them at Northwestern.
It was with the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the first song I ever learned how to play on the drums by myself was Meant to Live. They've got a lot of...
I was never super into Switchfoot, but I thought that they had some bangers, as the kids would say.
Bangers.
Thrive is definitely not something that you would like bang your head to.
No, that's more of a Dark Horses would fill that role, I think. Or something along those lines. Or Meant to Live. Yeah, they, P.O.D. filled
Dare You to Move? Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, P.O.D. filled the slot of that particular vein of nostalgia for me on this list. Hey everyone, it's Eric. If you've been following us for some time, you may have heard me say, well, we're not professional podcasters yet. I had my audio from this podcast to remind me of that as I was editing this week. It certainly seems sometimes that we're many miles away from professional podcasting as a possibility. However, we've been taking some steps to try turning a possibility into a reality. And baby step number 1 is, finally, activating our very own website domain, 2out3podcast.com. That's right. Ever so slowly, we're inching toward the digital age here at the 2 out of 3 podcast. Now, I do say baby step singular because while we have the domain, it does not yet direct you to a fancy new website. Instead, 2out3podcast.com will direct you over to our Patreon page. Patreon is a website dedicated to connecting a large number and variety of creators with patrons who help fund projects they love. The great thing about Patreon for us is that it is more than a crowdsourcing site. It's a way for us to connect with people who listen to the podcast. Many things on our Patreon page are free for everyone, but for as little as $1 per month, listeners of the podcast can become patrons and connect with us and with exclusive patron-only content. If now, or at any point in the future, you're interested in supporting the show financially, head over to patreon.com/2out3podcast or the brand new 2out3podcast.com to go through that process. That's patreon.com/2out3podcast or 2out3podcast.com. Now back to the show. Oh, okay.
So now we're
moving on, cracking the top
at the
5.
halfway point.
Just crossing over the halfway point line. This is one I picked definitely more for the sound of it than for the lyrics, and definitely more for the artist in general than for anything. The song I chose is called Figure It Out by Orla Gartland. And I don't think there's a song that she's made that I don't like. She primarily releases singles and EPs, and she's said that she's working on a full-length album, hopefully to come out soon. But this is off of her most recent EP, which I think came out earlier this year. She's a very talented Irish writer, singer, guitar player. She has her own music career, and then she also plays guitar in Dodie Clark's band, who just goes by Dodie musically. But she's very good. If you get the chance, check out her YouTube channel because her original stuff and her covers are really good. She has a cover of a Fleetwood Mac song that's on a playlist I have on YouTube. But very talented.
Yeah. My number 5, I think 5 is the perfect spot for it. It's American Pie by Don McLean. 8-minute song. It's wonderful. And I chose it mostly because it's a very nostalgic song for me. It was a song that dad had on his iPod back when he had an iPod Classic. And it was the highest piece of technology.
I have it here.
Yeah, it was the highest piece of technology that we had in our house, and I thought it was the coolest thing. And then at one point, it had to have been several years after he got the iPod, he somehow accidentally erased his entire iTunes library. Oh, there it is. The old docking station.
See that? It's got...
Yeah, if you turned it on, I don't think that American Pie would be on there because he accidentally erased his entire iTunes library once.
This is so old. Oh, the original. And he wasn't one... I think our family in general wasn't one to get new technology type stuff, but this was one that he jumped on pretty quick. This was plugged in here. Yeah, he used it. This was plugged in here when I moved back in here. I need a plug.
He used it when he was working as a massage therapist because he downloaded a bunch of, like, calming music and would play it on that docking station.
It turned on when I plugged the thing in. Let's see if it'll actually work. I might have to let it sit here for a minute. Oh, music.
It'll take 4 minutes to turn on.
Artists. Oh, it clicks and everything. Don McLean, that's what you said?
Mm-hmm.
It's not there. Songs.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
Nope. Well, he only has 4 songs that start with the letter A on here, so I don't think there's a ton going on. This is so small. What is this, like a 2 gig memory? Maybe.
Probably.
And now my phone has 256. My phone.
Yeah, I think I have a 128 phone.
My phone has twice the memory of my computer.
My phone and my computer have the same memory. Yeah, but American Pie, it reminds me of my childhood. It was a song that I think I bonded with both of our parents over in 2 different ways. Because it was a song that I definitely listened to a lot more with Dad. And then in recent years, I've listened to it more with Mom. I feel like it's helped me connect with them. And also, it's like an 8-minute song. And I think it's pretty cool to be able to sing all the lyrics of an 8-minute song and annoy everyone around you. It's like, haha, you thought I was done. Just kidding.
Yeah. That was a big one in our family for a period of time. Emily liked that when we were in marching band because there's a lyric, the marching band refused to yield. Mm-hmm. She thought that was fun.
Yeah, Dad chuckles at that one.
Yeah, that's a period of time in music history that didn't make it onto this list, and that I listened to a lot more at that point in my life. That's why I say Christian rock was almost exclusively what I was listening to, because I was also listening to music like that and music like country music, like the acceptable secular music for Christians to listen to, because sometimes they sing about Jesus too.
Yeah, I think we, as a family, listened to, like, all the same things growing up, and then in the years since we left the house, you, me, and Emily have been branching off in different ways, music-wise.
Yeah, and that's been ever-evolving for me as well. That's why this list looks the way it does right now.
And that's why you don't know all of these songs.
And why you don't know all of mine. Anywho. Moving on. You ready to move on?
Mm-hmm.
All right. My number 4 is a song, which I don't know if you can technically call it a song, but there is music in it. It's a spoken word piece, but it's set to music as well, so I think you can call it a song. It's called Sanctuary Cities by Levi the Poet. And Levi the Poet is a person who I think I heard about him when I was at Bethel. I had a piece of media cross my path. And he is also a Christian. Sanctuary Cities, Levi. I should have had all these ready to go, but here we are. And he's another person who I like how deeply he thinks and how deep his lyrics come off. But with that said, this is a song, and a lot of his in general, where, like, it's hard for me to keep up with the lyrics and I don't know all of them. But it's very much about him trying to figure out how to relate to God and trying to figure out how he can connect to, like, he feels like he's not connecting to God, and he's trying to figure out what he has to do or where he has to go to find that connection.
So, my number 4, it's the song Disappear from the musical Dear Evan Hansen. So, the plot of Dear Evan Hansen is that this kid, Evan, he has a friend, Connor, and Connor commits suicide. And then the whole play is Evan sort of reconciling that and trying to find a way for everyone to remember Connor and, like, show that no one should be alone or, like, be pushed to committing suicide. And I really like Disappear in particular because of the 2 particular lyrics. The first one, no one deserves to be forgotten. And just, like, the idea that you can have a boring life and, like, you could not do a whole lot, but that doesn't mean that you should be forgotten or your memory should be lost to time. And then the second line, if you never get around to doing some remarkable thing, that doesn't mean you're not worth remembering. And I've found some comfort in that line, because, like, I feel like I'm meant to be doing great things with my life, but even if I end up not doing great things, like, I've still lived a life that I can be proud of and that's worth mentioning to people.
Yeah.
Like, you're still important even if your life is mundane.
Yeah. That seems to, thematically seems to pair well with your Thrive choice.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know hardly anything about that musical.
I've listened to the soundtrack several times, and I just about went to go see it in Des Moines. It was here last winter, maybe, but I just never got the chance to go.
Is the song, there's a song, is it called, like, Waving Through the Window or something like that?
Mm-hmm.
Or is it called something
That's one
else?
of Emily's
That's, like, the
songs.
only song I know from that. That's also the one they did for the Tonys.
Yeah, that was a song about Evan, the main character, feeling that he was, like, not visible in his life, like he was hiding inside himself.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think most of the musical, like most of the soundtrack is pretty good if anyone's looking for a musical to listen to. You can get, like, a kind of understanding of what the musical is about through just the soundtrack, which I don't think you can get with all musicals.
Yeah, unless it's Hamilton, and that's just the whole show is music.
Couldn't get through that.
It's so good. I didn't end up putting any musical songs on my list, but because, like, Hamilton itself is, like, its own thing, and it's hard, I think, to pull a song out of a musical. Because, like, or to be my favorite, I guess. Because, like, I could say I like the song Yorktown from Hamilton, but, like, it's very much embedded in the context of that musical. Also, if you've never listened to it, listen to the Hamilton Polka by Weird Al. It's so good. And then watch the Jimmy Fallon interview with him and Jimmy Fallon and Lin-Manuel Miranda. It's fantastic.
I could just never get through it. Because it's, like, I feel like you have to be focused on it. It's like 2 hours.
It's like 2.5 hours, yeah. The length of the show. Because all of the lyrics are all of the words in the musical.
Mm-hmm.
Which the Lin-Manuel Miranda talked about that it didn't make sense to go from the way they were singing and what they were singing about to just normal dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
Which I didn't know going into the musical. I didn't listen to the soundtrack before I saw the musical. Which I appreciated.
Yeah, it was, like, revolutionary. Different way of doing a musical than had been done before.
Yeah, and of representing history on stage. With it not being same person of skin color performing as the person was.
Yeah, they just had the open casting. Whoever played the role best got it, even if they weren't white.
Which I definitely didn't know what to think about when I first heard that, and then when I saw the musical, it's like, this makes total sense. It's like the best way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
All right,
so now we're going into the top 3 favorite songs.
Number 3. This was sort of a difficult decision because this was another one where I chose a song to represent a band, sort of in homage to the band. So I chose the song Subdivisions by Rush, which to Rush fans might be a little controversial because it's not typically considered one of their best songs, but I think lyrically I like it a lot. It's about like a teenager sort of on the outside of the like on the outside of popularity, trying to just live as a person in like suburban, I guess it would be suburban Toronto, but just sort of an interesting thing, an interesting way of not interesting way. It's just a really good song. I like it a lot, and musically, Rush is very talented. All three of the people are talented on their own. They're very good together. But there are so many songs. Like I was going through all the songs, like at the top of their just normal playlist. And it's like I could put 10 of these songs just in this list on their own, and I could probably have a pretty decent list. But Rush is one. So all of their lyrics after like 1975, like their second studio album, were all written by the drummer, which is atypical, but he was like the smart one, quote unquote, and he was like reading books, and the other two were like, hey, maybe this guy can write lyrics. And then he started writing like really nerdy lyrics, and they're like, well, okay, I guess this works. But there are other songs I also have written on here. I like the song Limelight lyrically. The song Tom Sawyer is probably their best known, and that's great musically. Spirit of Radio, also very good. The 2112 Overture. So in the start of their career, they were writing songs that would be for the entire side of an album, like a record. So the 2112 Overture is a 20-minute long song that's in like 6 acts.
Jeez Louise.
And it takes all of side A. And it's so good. It was like so they were like in this back and forth with their label about wanting to write songs of this length, and the label being like, we don't understand this at all, and it's not selling. And 2112, that album was like their last, it could have been their last hurrah if it hadn't sold. And then it sold, and the label was like, well, I guess we'll just let you guys do your own thing now. And then it wasn't until the early 80s that they were like, we're not going to write these long songs anymore. This is getting ridiculous. But this is also an homage because their drummer, Neil Peart, just died earlier this year. And he's my favorite drummer and one of the greatest, if not the greatest, drummers of all time. Just incredibly talented, incredibly dedicated to his craft, and continued to learn throughout his drumming career. Like in the late 80s, early 90s, he started taking jazz lessons from like Peter Erskine, I think, who was like the jazz director at USC, Southern California, just to like be able to move from, he was very focused on like the beat and precision, and he started studying jazz in order to have more flow and be able to do more improvisation in live sets, so that he would have, because all of their stuff was so scripted, and they played almost everything completely live to tape. I think they had one of their longer songs that they had to break down into 3 sections that they played live instead of playing the whole thing through because it was just so technical. But
jazz is a different beast for, I think, the rhythm section, or I guess really any member of a band.
Yeah. Rush, they have the guitar player, they have the bass player who is also the lead vocalist and plays synth. So he would switch off between bass and synth. And then the drummer who had like a 100-piece kit with a bunch of electronics and stuff. But one of the great bands in music history that was looked up to by the majority of rock musicians coming up from the 80s and the 90s, and sort of was on the outside of, I guess, popular culture and pop rock culture. And it took them like 10 years, through 10 years of eligibility, to finally get into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. But that's my pick for number 3, in homage to Rush and R.I.P. Neil Peart.
Rush isn't a band that I like listen to. I know that you do, because you sent out a list of all your CDs that you own once. I was like, why do you have 18 Rush CDs?
Yeah. I have 15.
But I recognize that they are big band.
Yeah, and they were one of the things that is so amazing to me about them is that they played together for 40 years. And the one break they had a 4-year break because Neil's daughter and wife died within like 6 months of each other, and he just needed to stop for a number of years. And he was basically just on a motorcycle riding around North America as they were deciding whether music was going to continue to be a thing or not. But like for 40 years, it was the same 3 guys all making music together and like seemingly not getting on each other's nerves like a lot of other bands do, and being able to put their ego aside for the betterment of the group. There's a documentary about them on Netflix that should still be available. So if you just search Rush on Netflix, you should be able to find it. To anyone listening who's interested, listening to my monotonous droning about Rush.
Canadian rock band.
Very good.
So my number 3, when I initially listed off my top 25 favorite songs, and then I broke it down to my top 10, I showed you the list, and you were like, really? When I said this, and I think it's in the right spot on my list. Number 3, If I Had $1 Million by the Barenaked Ladies.
I was going to say, is it If I Had $1 Million?
Mm-hmm. And I think there are 2 main reasons that I like it. I think it has a really soothing beat, and like, I guess I don't know the main singer's name, but his
Stephen
voice,
Page.
like, sure, it's like, it's really calming to
That
me.
might not be right.
So if I need to
Something
calm
Page.
down, I'll listen to that song. And then, like American Pie, it's another song that reminds me of childhood. And it's one of the songs, I don't entirely know why, but I associate it a lot with spending time with Dad. And I feel like growing up, I didn't get a whole lot of, like, one-on-one time with Dad. And if we did, it felt weird, because it wasn't something we were super used to. But it's, like, this reminds me of, like, quote-unquote good one-on-one time that I had with Dad growing up.
Yeah. I will say that I've spent the last 2 days listening to Barenaked Ladies, trying to figure out if there was a song that I could put on this list from them. And ultimately, I think, while all their music is good, there wasn't one in particular that I could pull out and put on this list. But that's definitely their greatest hits album from 91 to 2001 or whatever it is like one. It's just a fantastic album. One of my favorite bands of the 90s.
Yeah, there's a meme about them. I don't remember the specific wording, but it was something like the Barenaked Ladies starting to learn German.
Yeah.
Ich bin 1 week since you liked me.
They're interesting. At some point in time, I got really into looking into their history, so I learned a fair amount about the band itself. But their first album is called Gordon, from the early 90s, and like half that album was on their greatest hits album. Like, they were making good music for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the mid-2000s, they switched to, like, trying to make songs for kids. It's like, this is kind of an interesting move for a band called Barenaked Ladies. They have a song, they have an album called Snack Time, which is an album for kids.
Interesting.
You should listen. They have a song, they have an alphabet song you need to listen to. It's hilarious. They definitely had a very comedic vibe, but a lot of their songs that are more serious are also really good too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, If I Had $1 Million is definitely, like, sort of comedic.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have to eat Kraft dinner.
But we would eat Kraft dinner.
Eat Kraft dinner.
Of course we would.
Of course
we
we
just
would.
eat
We
more.
just eat more. By really expensive ketchups.
That's all the fanciest Dijon ketchups. I listened to that song today.
Yeah, like, the lyrics, like, not at all serious. Kind of stupid when you think about it, but I like them.
Well, it's even 1 week. They wrote the song 1 week. It was the last song they wrote for that album, and they just needed a random B-side. And apparently, not the main singer, but the other singer guy would just in their live shows do an off the top of his head rap at some point in the show. And so they're like, just write a thing and put it on the song, and we'll use that as this last song. And then it turned into their biggest song. It's so good. All right, ready to move on to number 2?
I think so.
Coming up. It feels like there should be more of a payoff at the end of this list, but there's definitely not going to be on my list. All right, we're building up to something, and no one's going to know what it is. Anyways, number 2. This song ended up on my list about 3 hours ago. And what was going on is I was looking through, so I have Google Play Music. I don't have Spotify because I subscribe to YouTube Premium. So I get get Google Play for free. And I was looking through a playlist on there, trying to find all the songs that I've listened to the most times. Instead, I ended up on a playlist of all the songs that have been played the most times overall on Google Play Music. And one of them, the title was Johnny Cash. And immediately I went to, I haven't put any Johnny Cash on here. And my mind went straight to the song Hurt by Johnny Cash.
Oh, that's a good song.
So for those who don't know, Hurt isn't a Johnny Cash original. Johnny Cash is covering a Nine Inch Nails song. And I think for Johnny Cash aficionados, Hurt maybe wouldn't be the top song on a Johnny Cash song playlist. But if it wasn't the last song he ever recorded, it's one of the last songs he ever recorded. And if it wasn't the last video he's ever made, it was one of the last videos he's ever made. Because the video came out like 6 months before he died. And it's just like, for who Johnny Cash was as a person and as a character, it seems like such a great song just to like reflect a lot of the pain that he was able to convey through his music and sort of like sum up his life in general as he, unbeknownst to him and to the world, but ended up very soon after leaving the world. And it's just like, the depth of it is so good, and being able to turn a song from a band like Nine Inch Nails into a Johnny Cash song is really incredible. And this is one song I think that a lot of people will point to where the cover of the song was a lot better than the original.
Yeah, I was scrolling through Pinterest once, looking at like song lyrics, and the lyrics for that came up, and it just like hit me like a brick wall. Because
Yeah.
when I think of Johnny Cash, I don't necessarily think of super sad songs.
Yeah.
But just like reading the lyrics, it's just like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's pretty sad and fairly dark, but a very, very good song. And I was really glad that I remembered it before we started doing this, because I think it definitely deserved to be on the list.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there are a lot of other Johnny Cash songs too that could be on this list, but this is going to represent the entire Johnny Cash discography for me.
Yeah, I think that'd be a good one for a list of like underrated songs.
Yeah.
Alright, my number 2 on a totally different vibe. It's the song Suburbia by Troye Sivan. So Troye Sivan, he started off doing like Australia's Got Talent when he was 13. And then he became a YouTube star, and then just in the past couple years he's become a pop star. And so Suburbia is off one of his albums, and it's a song of him basically singing about growing up in suburbia. And when we were growing up, I mean, we grew up in the suburbs, and for several years, I feel like we had really strong connections with our neighbors. Like, there was a
At least a
neighborly
couple of
community. Them. Yeah. A couple of the neighbors. And just listening to the song recently, it brings me back to growing up and being, like, 7 years old. And living in our neighborhood with neighbors who we used to talk to, and now we, like, don't know any of our neighbors. Well, then we moved out, and I definitely don't know any of the new neighbors. And there's a line in the song, oh, how's it go? It's something about, like, they say that nothing ever changes in suburbia, but they have like the people in suburbia, have new lines on their faces. So it's like things, like, they're kind of staying the same, but we're also clearly aging and things are progressing with us. It's the idea of like change, but not super noticeable. And as someone who doesn't like super noticeable change, that's comforting.
Yeah. We both ended up with a suburbia type song on our list towards the top. So that was Subdivisions for me, my number 3 song. And that's also, I tried thinking of how to get a song from Green Day from American Idiot on to this, which is, as much as that song is about, or as much as that album is about the political landscape of the time, it's also like about life as a suburban youth, if you will.
So I think growing up in suburbia is distinctly different than growing up in like the city.
Yeah. Even though parts of our suburb were maybe rougher than parts of the city. There's a story, junior, senior year of high school, my English teacher, the English teacher in ALP, like our combined, for those who don't know, the combined English and social studies credit class that we had at our high school. So the English teacher from that was talking about being on a field trip somewhere in Minneapolis, and the kids from the school group being like scared in Minneapolis, and the English teacher was like, "You're from Brooklyn Park. They're afraid of you."
Brooklyn Park, I think
it had its own reputation on the north side. Crooklyn Dark, as it was known. It reminded me of when I was living in Denver. One of the cities there was Englewood, also known as Englehood. It's like, man, this seems like Brooklyn Park. Good old Brooklyn Park. I don't remember. Is that just talking about suburbia? That's how we got to there? Yeah.
How there are some parts of our town or our city that were rougher than others.
Yeah. As much as I don't want to be a suburbanite, I think I'm probably more comfortable in suburbia than elsewhere. Or as much as I'd like to be a city person. I don't know.
Yeah, I think I'm unintentionally relate really strong to the idea of suburbia.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's where we've lived most of our life.
Yep. Well, all of your life, most of my life.
Yeah, you...
I got my whole almost 2 years in North Minneapolis. But anyway, moving on. We have reached the top of the list. Number 1. And as I said, there are not very many people who are going to know this song. This song is a very interesting song. It was just released as a single. It wasn't released on an album at all, which I thought was interesting when I first found that out. The song is one I relate to very strongly for a very specific reason, which may become apparent when I tell you what it is. I'm very poor at building up the anticipation, so here it is. The song is called Writer's Block, and it's by Brother Ali. Writer's Block by Brother Ali. So this song, Brother Ali was working with a new producer. Brother Ali, I should say, is a white albino Muslim rapper who lives in Minneapolis. Like, he moved around the upper Midwest, but he's from Minneapolis now. And he was working with a new producer for the first time from Seattle back in 2012, 2013. And he was in Seattle, basically just in a hotel room, banging his head against the wall, trying to think of something to write to go along with the beats that the producer was giving him. And he just had this severe case of writer's block. And the producer was finally like, dude, you're paying for this time. Just write something about anything. So Brother Ali literally wrote a song about sitting in a hotel room with writer's block. And it's like the song I have most strongly related to ever, about just having writer's block and being like, why can't I write? Why can't I make something? I'm just sitting here. Like, I've situated myself so that I have the time. Like, I have all these distractions out of my way right now, and I just don't know what to write about. And I relate so strongly to this song that I wrote a blog post about this song. Like, I don't know if you remember when I was blogging every day a couple of years ago, which lasted for 2 months. But one of the things I wrote about was this song. And it's not just, there's some points in here. It's like, the song starts, I ain't trying to be one of them dudes that make hundreds of new songs and none of them are good. Like, some of them are cool, but ain't say nothing new, running through a verse just for something to do. And you're just writing about how he wants to write something that's really good. There's literally a line in here says, I'm trying to give myself goosebumps, okay? It's like, I'm trying to write something so good that I give myself goosebumps. And that's like part of his issue writing that album and part of my issue too. It's like, I'm trying to write something that's so perfect that it's like I'm not even able to write anything. So because of that,
been there.
yeah. So this song, it's almost a demo. It almost has a demo feel to it, but it's so good, and it has ascended to the top of my list, and it's been there for a while. So number one, Writer's Block by Brother Ali. And I have other songs on here too. I like Brother Ali a lot. Rap is an interesting genre for me because usually either I really like something or I really don't. Like, not like hate it, but just like can't get into it. And there are songs from the same artist where like I really like this song, I can't get into this other song at all. And there's some of that with Brother Ali, but for the most part, he has a bunch of songs. I wrote down here, Good Lord, Take Me Home, The Entire Morning in America, and Dreaming in Color album, the song Own Light, parentheses, What Hearts Are For. It's like he has so many good songs, and he thinks very deeply, especially about justice stuff, which I'm keyed into. But this song in general struck me very strongly as someone who often struggles with writer's block or something similar, depending on what I'm making.
Just any sort of creative block.
Yeah. But just the fact that he wrote the song about writer's block as he had writer's block, just trying to write something. So good.
So, my number one song. I have a feeling that approximately -1 people will know this song. It's called Taken by Sleep, and it's by Tyler Joseph. So Tyler is the singer for 21 Pilots, the big band. But when he was in high school, he recorded and, like, soft released on SoundCloud his own album when he was, like, 17. This is one of the songs from that album. So, like, it's not even on Spotify. You can just find it on YouTube. And the song, I've listened to it so many times and I can't fully get, like, the story behind it. But what I get from it is it's Tyler, as he was, like, a 17-year-old, like, singing about being in high school and having a friend, and both he and his friend are sad for whatever reason, and just, like, the idea that they're sad, but they want to be sad together, and, like, they're gonna be there for each other through, hard times in their life. I'm looking through the lyrics right now. I really like the line, and I know it might be a little selfish for me to say, but I need to know if you thought of me at all today. Because it's like that idea of wanting to know that the people who you care about also care about you. We talked about that in, like, the Love Languages podcast.
Yeah. That's the 2-4 side of the Enneagram.
It's just like I have a friend and I know you're my friend and I really want you to know that you're my friend, but also, like, am I your friend? And I think the song is meant to be sad, but it's fairly upbeat. Tyler has a reputation for writing super sad songs in a really upbeat way that you don't realize that they're sad until you actually read or listen to the lyrics.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's one of the songs that I'm kind of mad that I found because it's not on Spotify, and so I can't like listen to it on Spotify. I have to go to YouTube and find it.
Yep. So
I'd say that's my list.
There's our list.
Go back. Different. Number 10, Words I Couldn't Say by Rascal Flatts. 9, Never Sure by Mayday Parade. 8, Long Live by Taylor Swift. 7, Wish That You Were Here by Florence and the Machine. 6, Thrive by Switchfoot. 5, American Pie by Don McLean. 4, Disappear from Dear Evan Hansen. 3, If I Had $1 Million by the Barenaked Ladies. 2, Suburbia by Troye Sivan. And 1, Taken by Sleep by Tyler Joseph.
And then for me, to recap, number 10, Jesus He Knows Me by Genesis. Number 9, Change the World by P.O.D. Number 8, On My Own by Tessa Violet. Number 7, Brother by the Brilliance. Number 6, Valerie by Mark Ronson featuring Amy Winehouse. Number 5, basically all of Orla Gartland's music, but specifically Figure It Out for this. Number 4, Sanctuary Cities by Levi the Poet. Number 3, basically all Rush music, but Subdivisions for the purpose of this. Number 2, Hurt by Johnny Cash. And number 1, Writer's Block by Brother Ali. Did you have a list of honorable mentions at all?
Not really. I mean, I have my list of my top 50, and I just, like, bolded some random ones that I thought would maybe go into the top 10. So I guess honorable mentions, the acoustic or alternate version of I'm Low on Gas and You Need a Jacket by Pierce the Veil. I can't find it on Spotify. It's like a part of the deluxe album that I paid for on iTunes. It's like the alternate version of the song. A handful of different Rascal Flatts songs. Time to Say Goodbye by 21 Pilots. I don't think that one's on Spotify either. It's Botticelli, the like opera singer. He did a song, and 21 Pilots used that song as like a backtrack for their own song. And that's what Time to Say Goodbye is. And then I think Highway 20 Ride by Zac Brown Band is high up on my list as well.
That was one that surprised me too when you said that. I think that was one that came up during your initial top 25 list back a month ago.
Yeah, I think I definitely put that in my top 25.
Interesting.
What about you? Do you have honorable mentions?
Oh, I've got such a long list of honorable mentions. So I already mentioned Smooth Criminal by Michael Jackson. The song Tribute by Tenacious D. Gunshot Sounds by the rapper Nerd D. N-U-R-D. Into Your Veins by Five Iron Frenzy. And also the songs Zen and the Art of Xenophobia, So Far, and Battle Dancing Unicorns with Glitter by Five Iron Frenzy. All on the same album. Good Kisser by Lake Street Dive. Fake Happy by Paramore. Dancing's Not a Crime by Panic at the Disco.
Good song.
Yeah, it almost made it. It was really close. The song Doing Time by MXPX, specifically the acoustic version, and specifically the acoustic version that their lead singer, Mike Herrera, did on the Guitar Center YouTube channel. Fall Goliath Fall by Project 86. Bitch Bad by Lupe Fiasco. Sing 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 by Benny Goodman. Wait So Long by Trampled by Turtles. Fast Car by Tracy Chapman.
Good song.
America by Rammstein. I've recently rediscovered a spoken word piece on YouTube called Shrinking Women by Lily Myers. I think she only ever put 2 pieces on YouTube that I could find, but it's like a fantastic piece. The song Rejoice by Julian Baker, specifically an acoustic version on YouTube. New Horizons by Flyleaf. Soldier Poet King by the Oh Hellos. Death in His Grave by John Mark McMillan. Then Okay by Julia Nunes. Also Used to Want by Julia Nunes. There are a couple songs that I think the video really helps propel or like raise. The song This Is America by Childish Gambino. And the song Still Feel by Half Alive. And then Just some other artists we talked about: Barenaked Ladies, P.O.D, Hamilton, and the Hamilton Polka. Also, and we talked about Dodie Clark. But
Mm-hmm.
then some other ones. Dessa is a rapper from Minneapolis. There's a band called Sabaton. They're a what's the phrase? Power metal, but they're a band from like Sweden or somewhere in Scandinavia, and they just write power metal songs about history. So they have an album called The Last Stand, which is about famous last stand battles, like in history. And then also other bands: Children 18-3, Modest Yahoo, the first two albums by Icon for Hire, music by Chaim. I didn't put Lord on here, but also Lord, Mute Math, and then Nirvana, specifically the Unplugged album that they did for MTV.
Yeah, if you're ever on my Spotify, I think they're public. I make playlists of like the songs that I'm listening to. I do it by like semester. So I think I'll do 3 a year, so fall semester, spring semester, and then a summer playlist. And that's a good list of songs that I'm listening to at a particular time. And so that's more indicative of like my daily listening than my top 10 list.
Yeah.
They're also very much not songs that like a lot of people would listen to.
Well, that's like 4 of the people I talked about are all like came out of YouTube, with Tessa Violet, Orla, Gartland, Dodie, and Julia Nunes.
Yeah, because like the songs I listen to, like I really like them, and I'm sure that people will like some of the songs, like depending on what kind of music you listen to. But it's just I have such a strange overlap in music tastes.
Yeah. Like I also could have put like Avenged Sevenfold or some Korn on here. Like not all Korn, after 2 of the guys became Christians. Their album Paradigm Shift, I really enjoy that album.
Yeah, if any listeners have any other ideas for like top 10 lists or things that you'd be interested in hearing about our favorites,
Yes, I still want to
Dad,
do.
you could tell us. Anyone else, you can tweet at us.
Dad or one of the other 3 people who listen, whoever you are. I still want to do a movie one. I think you can come up with 10 movies.
Yeah, it might take a little bit, but
Yeah,
I will eventually be able to come up with 10 favorite movies.
because I for sure have my top 1. I know for sure, probably top 3, maybe top 5. Like I could list right away, but it could end
Yeah,
up being
well,
like this too, where it takes forever to actually come up with stuff. And even now, we could hang up the phone and I could come up with other songs to put on this list. This one seems way more at this moment in time than a movie list would be.
But these people are screaming outside my apartment. They do this every night. How are you partying every night in the middle of a pandemic? I don't understand.
No one's staying home. Like, I went to Target the other day. I went to M's for a bonfire on Friday, and I went to the Target in Columbia Heights, and there were 25 people in line at least. I can hear that.
Oh, now their car alarm's going off.
But like split between the normal lines with the cashiers and the self-checkout lines, there had to be at least 25 people. I put my stuff back on the shelf.